I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living." We are born into a world that is obsessed with safety. From the moment we take our first steps, we are padded, protected, and steered away from the sharp edges of existence. While this instinct preserves our physical bodies, it often suffocates our spirits. The fundamental truth of human existence is this: nothing of profound value, lasting impact, or deep personal satisfaction has ever been achieved from within the confines of a comfort zone. To understand the weight of Nelson Mandela's words, we must look at the context of his life. Here was a man who spent 27 years in a tiny prison cell. If anyone had the right to play small or settle for a life of quiet resignation upon his release, it was him. Yet he emerged to dismantle an entrenched system of racial segregation and lead a fractured nation toward reconciliation. He understood that passion is not a gentle, passive emotion. It is a fiery, demanding force that requires oxygen to burn. That oxygen is risk. When you choose to play small, you are not just making a benign choice for a quieter life. You are actively engaging in the slow starvation of your own potential. Settling for a life that is less than what you are capable of living is a quiet tragedy. It is the tragedy of the unwritten novel, the unlaunched business, the unspoken declaration of love, and the unpursued cure. The world does not benefit from your self-imposed shrinking. Society's progress relies entirely on those willing to step out of the shadows, shoulder the burden of possibility, and risk making a fool of themselves in the pursuit of greatness. I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. But I never understood that concept. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. As you navigate the pivotal transitions of your life, choosing a university, selecting a major, stepping into the professional arena, you will be bombarded by the well-meaning advice of parents, teachers, and mentors. They will hand you the conventional wisdom of the ages. Make sure you have something to fall back on. They tell you this out of love. They tell you this out of a desire to protect you from the harsh realities of poverty, disappointment, and public failure. But we must critically examine the psychology of the fallback plan. When you dedicate significant emotional, mental, and financial resources to building a safety net, you are subconsciously signaling to your own brain that you expect the fall. You are diverting precious energy away from your primary goal to construct a soft landing for your inevitable defeat. A safety net can very easily transform into a hammock. It becomes a place of comfort that tempts you to stop climbing when the ascent becomes agonizingly difficult. To fall forward is to fundamentally redefine the physics of failure. When a toddler learns to walk, they do not fall backward. They lunge forward, lose their balance, and catch themselves, inching closer to their destination with every stumble. Falling forward means maintaining your momentum, even in the face of disaster. It means that when you inevitably hit the ground, you are at least one body length closer to your goal than you were when you started. It means keeping your eyes open as you descend, analyzing the terrain, and seeing exactly what you are going to hit so you can avoid it the next time. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail. There's an old IQ test with 9 dots, and you had to draw 5 lines with a pencil within these 9 dots without lifting the pencil. The only way to do it was to go outside the box. Passion is the spark, but consistency is the engine. The world is full of brilliant starters, but it is devastatingly short on finishers. To finish, you must possess an irrational commitment to your craft, a commitment that can only be sustained by genuine passion. If you are chasing money, prestige, or the approval of others, your fuel will run out the moment the journey becomes arduous. To innovate, you must first recognize the invisible boundaries that society has placed upon your thinking. Consider the classic 9-dot puzzle. When people are presented with a grid of 9 dots and asked to connect them with straight lines without lifting their pen, they almost always fail. Why? Because they unconsciously assume the lines must stay within the imaginary square created by the dots. The rules never stated this, but human beings are conditioned to invent borders where none exist. To solve the puzzle, you must literally draw your lines outside the box. This is not just a clever riddle. It is a profound metaphor for human progress. Every major leap forward in science, art, technology, and civil rights was achieved by someone who realized the rules were merely suggestions written by people who were no smarter than they were. Do not be afraid to think outside the box. Do not be afraid to dream with an audacity that makes small-minded people uncomfortable. But temper those dreams with the cold, hard steel of discipline. Because dreams without concrete, actionable goals are merely the lullabies we sing ourselves to avoid doing the actual work. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments because the 1,001st was the light bulb. We suffer from a massive cultural delusion regarding success. We are presented with the polished, finished products, the flawless opening night, the billion-dollar IPO, the perfectly curated social media feed. What is hidden from view is the staggering, bloody mountain of failures upon which those successes are built. Consider Reggie Jackson, famously known as Mr. October for his clutch hitting in baseball. He is enshrined in the Hall of Fame, yet he holds the all-time record for strikeouts, 2,597 of them to be exact. He walked back to the dugout in utter defeat more times than almost any human being to ever play the game. But history does not remember the breeze of his swinging strikes. History remembers the crack of the bat when he connected. Your legacy is not defined by the sum of your failures, but by the magnitude of your perseverance. Consider Thomas Edison. When asked about his struggle to invent the incandescent light bulb, he reportedly stated that he had not failed 1,000 times. He had successfully discovered 1,000 ways that a light bulb would not work. This is the ultimate embodiment of falling forward. Every shattered filament, every blown fuse, every exhausted budget was not a detour from his goal, it was the very path leading to it. Each failure was a crucial data point. If you want to illuminate the world, you must be willing to sit in the dark through 1,000 failed attempts. You will fail at some point in your life. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. Embrace it because it's inevitable. This is the antithesis of the traditional sanitized graduation speech. Usually you are told that the world is your oyster, that your potential is limitless, and that a golden path awaits you. But candor demands a harsher, more useful truth. You are going to fail. You will face moments of profound professional rejection. You will experience the agonizing sting of public embarrassment. You will try something you desperately want to be good at, and you will realize with crushing clarity that you are currently terrible at it. I want to tell you a story about the acting business, an industry built entirely on an architecture of rejection. Early in my career, I secured an audition for a Broadway musical. I walked into the theater buzzing with anticipation. I looked at the script, I looked at the character, and I thought, this is it. This is the role I was born to play. There was only one glaring, insurmountable problem. I possessed absolutely no ability to sing. I went out on that stage and failed spectacularly. I didn't get the job. I walked out of that theater into the loud, unforgiving streets of New York City, and I had a choice. I could have fallen back. I could have decided the humiliation was too great, that the risk was too high, and found a safer, quieter way to make a living. Instead, I walked away preparing for the next audition, and the one after that, and the one after that. I prayed for strength, I studied my craft, but the failures continued. Rejection became my daily bread. But there is a gritty, unglamorous truth to persistence, best captured by an old saying. If you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later, you're going to get a haircut. Eventually the break came. And in a beautiful, poetic twist of fate, 30 years after that humiliating, voiceless audition for a musical, I returned to Broadway to star in August Wilson's masterpiece, Fences. I won a Tony Award for that performance. And where did it happen? At the Court Theater. The exact same building where I had failed so miserably 3 decades prior. The stage that witnessed my greatest defeat eventually hosted my greatest triumph. But do you have the guts to stand on that stage and fail first? Because if you are not failing, you are not pushing the boundaries of your capabilities. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. Imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. How many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes? Let us engage in a grim but necessary mental exercise. Fast forward through the decades of your life to your final moments. You are lying on your deathbed. The room is quiet, but you are not alone. Standing in the shadows around your bed is a gathering of phantoms. These are not the ghosts of your ancestors. They are the ghosts of your own unlived life. They are the ghosts of the brilliant ideas you had but were too terrified to execute. They are the ghosts of the unique talents you were given but never cultivated because you were too busy trying to fit in. They are the ghosts of the bold conversations you never had, the distant shores you never visited, and the radical love you never risked expressing. Look into the eyes of these ghosts. They are not sorrowful. They are furious. They are bitterly disappointed. They look down at you in your final hours and they say, "We came to you. The universe entrusted us to your care. We came to you because only you could have brought us to life in the way we needed to be born. But you were too scared. You played it safe. You settled. And now, because of your fear, we must go to the grave together, never having seen the light of day." This is the ultimate horror. The true nightmare is not failure. The true nightmare is reaching the end of your allotted time on this earth and realizing you left your best music still inside of you. So I ask you, with the utmost urgency, when that final day arrives, how many ghosts will be standing around your bed? Will it be a crowded room of angry spirits, or will you die empty, having given every ounce of your potential to the world? The world needs a lot, and we need it from you. We really do. Whatever your gift is, what are you going to do with what you have? When we talk about achieving potential, it is easy to frame it purely as a selfish endeavor, a quest for personal wealth, fame, or self-actualization. But true fulfillment is inextricably linked to service. I recently returned from South Africa. It is a land of breathtaking beauty, but it is also scarred by pockets of devastating systemic poverty. The need for innovation, compassion, and structural repair is palpable. But you do not need to cross an ocean to find a world in crisis. Africa is just the tip of the iceberg. The Middle East is fractured and bleeding. And look within our own borders, the communities in Alabama, the rural stretches of Tennessee, the parishes of Louisiana, the inner city neighborhoods of Philadelphia. They need your help. The world is profoundly broken, and it is begging for architects to help rebuild it. And we, the older generation, the ones whose hair is turning gray, we are passing the baton. We need the energy, the uncorrupted idealism, and the radical new ideas of the youth. You must get out there and give it absolutely everything you have. I am not talking about how much money you possess in your bank account. I'm talking about your innate gifts. Some of you have minds wired for complex business structures. Some of you are theologians, capable of navigating the deep waters of human morality. Some are nurses, possessing the sacred ability to comfort the dying and heal the sick. Some are sociologists, uniquely equipped to dismantle broken societal systems. Your treasure might be capital, but it might also be infinite patience. It might be a radical kindness. It might be the rare, unglamorous gift of long suffering. The ability to stand by a cause or a person long after everyone else has abandoned them. The ultimate question of your existence is not what did you acquire, but rather what are you going to do with what you have? Sometimes the best way to figure out where you're going. Your life will never be a straight path. I began at Fordham University as a pre-med student. I was a 1.8 GPA. We are sold a myth of the linear life. We are told that we must pick a major at 18, graduate at 22, climb the corporate ladder, and retire comfortably. If you deviate from this straight line, society makes you feel as though you are hopelessly lost. But failure is often the universe's most aggressive compass. It violently redirects you when you are heading the wrong way. When I enrolled at Fordham University, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I was a pre-med student. I walked into a class called cardiac morphogenesis. I couldn't read the textbook. I couldn't pronounce the terms. And I most certainly could not pass the exams. I failed. So I pivoted. I thought perhaps I was meant to be a lawyer. So I went into pre-law. Then I tried journalism. With absolutely no academic focus, drifting through disciplines, my grades plummeted. I hit a dismal 1.8 GPA. The administration pulled me aside and with a polite firmness reserved for failing students, suggested I take some time off. I was 20 years old, academically dismissed, deeply confused, and at the absolute lowest point of my young life. I felt like a monumental failure. But that failure was the necessary catalyst that forced me out of a life I was not meant to live, clearing the space for my true vocation to emerge. March 27, 1975. I was helping my mother in her beauty shop, and there was this older woman. She said, "Young boy, I have a prophecy. You are going to travel the world and speak to millions of people. Life has a funny way of revealing your path through the voices of strangers, usually when you are at your most vulnerable." I remember the exact date, March 27, 1975. I was back home licking my wounds after washing out of university, helping out at my mother's beauty shop in Mount Vernon. There was an older woman in the shop that day, an elder of the community. I didn't know her personally, but as I swept the floors and looked into the salon mirrors, I kept catching her reflection. She was staring at me from under the dome of a hairdryer. Every time I glanced up, her eyes were fixed on me with an intense, piercing knowingness. Finally, she lifted the dryer off her head, called me over, and spoke words that would imprint themselves onto my very soul. She said, "Young boy, I have a spiritual prophecy. You are going to travel the world, and you are going to speak to millions of people." At 20 years old, with a 1.8 GPA and no prospects, her words sounded like absolute madness. But in the decades that followed, that seemingly absurd prophecy became the exact architecture of my reality. I have traveled the globe. I have spoken to millions of people through the medium of film. Millions of people who, until moments like this commencement address, couldn't see the real me, only the characters I projected onto a screen. But the prophecy was true. Sometimes, when you are stumbling in the dark, you have to borrow someone else's belief in you until your own belief kicks in. Taking risk is not just about going for a job. It's also about knowing what you know and what you don't know. It's about being open to people and to ideas. Never hold back. Give everything you got. And when you fall throughout life, remember this: fall forward. As I look out at the youth today, despite the chaos of the modern world, I am fiercely encouraged. I am strengthened by your potential. But I need you to redefine what it means to take a risk. Taking a risk is not just the act of quitting a stable job to start a company or moving to a new city with no money. Those are external risks. The most terrifying risks are internal. Risk is having the intellectual humility to admit what you do not know. Risk is being radically open to people who look different than you, think differently than you, and challenge your most deeply held convictions. Risk is choosing to love someone with your whole heart, knowing that loss and heartbreak are eventual certainties. Risk is maintaining your faith in humanity when the daily news cycle gives you every reason to succumb to cynicism. The chances you take, the bold ideas you embrace, the people you dare to love deeply, and the faith you choose to hold on to, these are the elements that will define the shape of your soul. So, as you step out of the halls of academia and into the brutal, beautiful arena of the real world, make me a promise. Never be discouraged by the magnitude of the climb. Never hold back a single ounce of your effort, your love, or your talent. Empty the tank. Give this world absolutely everything you've got. And when you stumble, when you lose the job, when the relationship shatters, when the project fails, when the world brings you to your knees, do not retreat. Lean into the momentum of your failure. Brace yourself. Keep your eyes wide open and fall forward.